Alright guys, Delrith here. I'm going to be bringing you a rapid-fire version of a review for the Evil Within 2. I am going to be reviewing games that Joe and other Joe do not get time to review, and do the best I can to give you my impressions on the game and what I think about it and whether or not you should get it or whether or not it was a good game at all. If you do not know who I am the primary streamer on the Twitch channel and a co-host on the show here. I'm involved with a few things that Joe does. It's good to meet you guys, and I hope to be more involved in things in the future. Now I want to get straight into it and say that the Evil Within 2 was published by Bethesda/ZeniMax, and it was a game made by Tango Gameworks. Now this is the second game in the story in the series, but you do not need to play the first game, and I actually recommend that you do not play the first game. The game itself does a really good job at explaining what's going on, who you are. By the way, you are Sebastian Castellanos, a detective, and it drops you into this world and what's going on without too much confusion and generally tells you everything you know. I want to say that I put about 30 hours into the game overall, and I just want to say straight out that the game was a positive experience, and I want to break down why I enjoyed it as much as I did, but I definitely recommend that it's something that you pick up and go play in the future. First game itself in the series was a bad experience, and this game took notes from what people said were wrong, and they went through and changed almost everything about it, making it a much better experience than the first game was to play through. Right out the door, I want to get straight into talking about the story of the game. The story is fantastic. It's easy to get into if you haven't played the first game, like I said, and it's a total mindfuck at times. You play as Sebastian, who's trying to find his daughter, who wasn't actually dead, which, you know, you find out right out the door in this game. The main story has a lot of really great character building and bad guys being one of the strongest parts, and at no point was I disappointed with anything that they were saying, anything that they were doing, or I did not believe their motivations behind what they were doing. This is one of the only horror games that I've played in recent times that made me go, what the fuck, multiple times through my playthrough, as the game itself got more and more disturbing as time went on. You get to see the world devolve, not only visually, but through the mental stability of the characters, and you get to watch everything basically fall apart bit by bit as you progress through the story itself, which in full, not counting the open world sections, probably was about 12 hours in total. The side quests themselves lend strongly to the overall story of the game and are not actually necessary, but going out and doing them and finding out these side stories and doing things for the people of the town or the people that are in the safe houses or the people that are involved in this experiment will give you a lot more knowledge as to why things are the way they are and reward you thusly for doing so. The pacing of the story is very solid. I think that there was no issues at any point during the game, and they really tie it well together with the open world aspect of the game, letting you get a breather in between fast-paced action thriller suspense moments and then just doing general story and helping people around in the city to let you get ready and prepare for the next act in the game, which are handled by, a chapter system. If you wanted to learn more about the game, you simply looked around and read notes that you could collect, like little collectible things like journals and pictures and pamphlets and files, or you could talk to the characters that you will bump into throughout the game, and this generally fills in any gaps that were missing through the actual storytelling of the main plot. The game really sells the idea of psychopaths in its universe. It's like you're running through a living nightmare at times, trying to escape your own demons and the demons generated by other people. And a lot of the psychopaths and the people that you deal with in the game are primary bad guys, so I won't spoil much, but I will tell you that they are extremely well done, and it just was awesome to deal with at times during the gameplay. The ending felt great, honestly. I felt like it was very well-rounded, and it was a satisfying experience. I have no complaints about the story at all. I think that the story itself was one of the strongest points of the game, and I want to get into the gameplay now that I've addressed the story. If you're looking for a fun story game, I would go for it. The story alone, to me, sold me on the game. The things that I loved the most was the combat and movement system of the game. I feel like the combat and movement lended very well to the third-person genre of games, like the action, shooting behind cover, popping up, popping down, killing things left and right, doing what you can to survive. I felt like that was done very well, but didn't take away from the fact that this was a horror-based action game. I never felt that being able to shoot enemies or being able to sneak up behind enemies, which are both combat styles you can use in this game, took away from the fact that I knew that every point I could fucking die in a heartbeat, or that by shooting my gun I was running out of ammo and that I was basically screwing myself over for later. I never felt like it took away from the imminent threat and the overwhelming sense of dread that you had throughout the game. I enjoyed being able to blow up weak spots on enemies, and do things like sneak up behind them and decapitate them with my knife or kill them instantly, and it didn't matter what I wanted to do or how I wanted to play. The game let me do it, and it catered to what I wanted to do at a certain situation or how I wanted to approach what I want, you know, the thing at hand. Talent system is also very well done. I think that the way that they had you kill enemies and treat their goo that falls out like experience points was a good way to handle it based on the horror of this universe. And to be able to level up, you go to a chair, get a bunch of injections of goo inside your body, which unlocks talent points that you can use to empower certain playstyles or to customize how you handle the experience of the game. If you want to be better at shooting, you can upgrade your shooting. If you want to be better at sneaking, you can upgrade your sneaking and how you do stealth attacks. If you want to have more health, you can put points in health. If you want to be more athletic and run away from opportunities, you can do that. The game lets you pick and choose your character how you want to do it, and I think that it was well done in that regard. I will say, however, that there are a few things that you have to choose to pick that aren't so great, and I felt like I was really only using sneaking and the health options of the game, and that any other upgrades in the combat or athletics were more like side upgrades, and at that point they were pretty much worthless. So if there is a downside to the talent system, it's that the combat itself really made no significant impact. So if you're wanting to get more into guns, that will be more handled through the crafting system. Is something that you will deal with throughout the entire game. It is something that you have to constantly find resources for, and the game developers took an opportunity to decide, hey, you will not have a central resource system or a place to store your resources. What you see is what you get, and what you carry on you is how you're going to get through the game. You cannot pick up ammo and store it later, which is something that I am appreciative of, as it allows you to basically have to switch and adapt through your situations and not have to use the same gun. I feel as if it added diversity to the game rather than took away from it. Each enemy type is interesting and diverse and has multiple different weak points and custom areas that you could shoot to do more damage and deal with certain fights differently, allowing you to pick and choose how you fight your way through hordes of enemies or how you fight your way through situations, depending on how good certain weapons you are using are at killing and hitting these spots on these enemies. The different enemy types will force you into making decisions such as, do I shoot this enemy or do I sneak my way around? And I like the idea of the game forcing you to do this, allowing you to constantly be on your toes whether or not you should simply gung-ho through a situation, or you will actually die if you attempt to do so, or if you'll need your ammo later on for a boss that's coming up. You don't know, and it keeps you thinking. The boss mechanics themselves are not awful at all, and I enjoyed the boss fights immensely. I will not tell you much about them, but the mechanics are easy to follow and much better than the first game, and the bosses themselves were very, very entertaining. I will say now that the horror experience of the game is one of the strongest things. I want to definitely give props to the Tango Gameworks development team for doing this awesome blend of psychological horror mixed with a open world environment and a story in such an interesting way. I loved every sort of flashback that you were going through. There are times where you're not going to be able to understand what is going on with your mental state of the game. You'll be flashing in and out of consciousness. You'll be going in and out of realities. You'll be in one place and it'll seamlessly transition into others. The game does the whole horror psychological thriller thing perfectly. Overall, I gotta say that the story was fantastic, the gameplay was fantastic, the crafting system was good, the talent system was good. If I had to nitpick and say positive or negative things about the game, negatively I would say that the game could have probably improved upon the enemy AI, as it's extremely exploitable at times, and really they could have had more open world buildings for you to go in and out of, as a lot of them are closed off and you can't really do anything with them. But I would give the game a solid 9 out of 10. It is a must play for anyone that is a horror game fan, and a must play for anyone that's just an action third-person shooter game fan. I think that the game is fantastic in both regards. I think that the story was really worth playing, and I honestly would recommend it to anyone that's my friend or any of you guys that were curious on whether or not you should buy it. So again, this was my first rapid fire review. I know it's rough around the edges. I will be cleaning it up and getting better at it as I go. I hope you guys really found this insightful and were able to enjoy, watching this video. If you have any questions or whatever, please leave them in the comments, and thank you so much for watching, and have a great night, dudes.